Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the show. Yet another episode of Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Logridge, your host of the show. Now, obviously, I'm doing something a little bit different today, coming to you guys from outside. It's an absolutely gorgeous day, and I really just wanted to get outside and enjoy the weather while I did this. So I'm just trying something a little bit different. Anyway, I'm going to be right into my buy low trade targets. I mean, there's a lot of really good ones right now because, look, it's week one. People are extremely reactionary to what happens in week one. I don't know what it is, especially considering the fact that week one is like pretty much the flukiest week of the entire season. People should understand that even if their guys were a bust in week one, they should probably hold on to them and not sell them until later until they really know what's going to happen. But people don't think that way. They're very reactionary to week one. And so it's actually one of the best weeks to get your hands on a buy low trade target. So I'm going to start with the first player on my list, and that is Deebo Samuel. Now, this is a guy that's going to be harder to get than pretty much any other buy low on my list because it's Deebo freaking Samuel. You know, he's one of the best players in all of fantasy football, but we have to look at what happened in this last game. The field conditions were absolutely terrible. That's a big reason why he busted. I mean, he was still being used heavily as a running back, though, still being targeted. I mean, this is a guy who, now that Elijah Mitchell is going to miss some time, is going to be a volume-heavy wide receiver as far as rushing the ball. I mean, this guy is going to see 7+ carries in a lot of games. He's still going to see games where he has 10+ targets. And so considering the immense amount of volume that he's going to get in this offense, now that Elijah Mitchell is going to miss some time, considering his awesome run after the catch abilities and the fact that he's one of the best, most lethal weapons in all of fantasy football when he's in the open field, and considering the fact that he's still playing on what I think is going to be a very high-scoring offense and probably be one of the best teams in the NFC, I would get this guy right now as a buy low trade target. He probably is coming off what will be his hands down worst fantasy performance of the entire season. It's going to be hard to get your hands on Deebo, guys, because it's Deebo Samuel, but this is going to be the easiest week to buy low on him due to the fact that he probably just had what's going to be his worst fantasy performance of the entire season, and the fact that people like to just really overreact to week one. So if there's ever a time to buy low on Deebo Samuel, it's right now. It's at least worth a shot. Next player on my list is going to be Aaron Jones. Now, guys, Aaron Jones is going to be way easier to get than Deebo Samuel in the trade market. Aaron Jones is really, really not on a lot of people's radar right now. I mean, he is literally falling fast as far as people's overall rankings because they're concerned about what A.J. Dillon is going to do to his overall efficiency as a fantasy running back, and I totally get it. I mean, A.J. Dillon saw more targets in this game than Aaron Jones and more carries. But, guys, let's not forget, it's week one. The Packers always look bad in week one, and then they end up being one of the best offenses in the entire NFL. The game script was weird in this game. The entire game was really goofy. This will be the worst game for the Packers all season long as far as overall offensive efficiency. And let's not forget that Aaron Jones still ran the ball extremely efficiently in this game. I mean, he had only 5 carries. He ran the ball for 49 yards. This is one of the most efficient running backs in the NFL, especially over the past 5 seasons. This dude has averaged over 5 yards a carry. His talent is incredible. He's still going to be used heavily as a pass-catching back in this offense. He is going to receive a ridiculous amount of targets this season. Now that there is no Devontae Adams, this team doesn't have a true wide receiver one at the moment. So Aaron Jones is going to go off as far as his PPR upside. I mean, he's going to be catching a lot of passes. He's going to be seeing a lot of targets. His red zone carry count is going to go up. His receptions and targets within the red zone are going to go up. His amount of touchdowns scored within the red zone are going to go up, all now that Devontae Adams is gone, and Devontae Adams is no longer there to siphon fantasy red zone opportunities away from Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is absolutely going to go off this year, guys. Trust me. Don't worry about the fact that A.J. Dillon's running behind him. Let's not forget how good this guy was when Jamal Williams was running behind him and cutting into his workload significantly. He was still one of the best running backs in all of fantasy, and he was the best running back in all of fantasy in the games where Devontae Adams didn't play. In those games, he had over 25 PPR points a game. Look for him to absolutely explode this year. Buy low on Aaron Jones right now while he's at his lowest point of the season as far as other people's opinion on him. Next player on my list is going to be Alvin Kamara. Now, this is a guy who is one of the most talented running backs in the entire NFL. Alvin Kamara is one of the best running backs in the NFL. He is playing in an offense that now has offensive weapons to actually help him. I mean, we got Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, who looked really good in week one. Jarvis Landry. We got a gunslinger in Jameis Winston to produce fantasy points for the offense. This is a back that we know is going to see heavy pass catching volume. He just had a bad week one. The Saints were playing from behind for a lot of the game. They just didn't look very good. But, as we know, game scripts for running backs when their team is behind just typically aren't very good. But this is a team that is going to be playing with a lead more often than you probably think. This is going to be a very good offense this year, guys. I'm telling you, the Saints are going to put points on the board, meaning that they're going to be ahead in games, meaning that Alvin Kamara is going to have games where he has over 20 rushing attempts. Just like we saw last year, his rushing volume is going to be better than it's been, even in his super dominant fantasy days of, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. This is a guy who is now going to see more rushing volume than those fantasy days and still has the same PPR upside because of seeing a tremendous amount of overall passes out of the backfield. He's going to line up as a wide receiver every now and then and see some targets from Jameis Winston in that regard. He is going to be a fantasy beast this year. He's a good buy low right now, but honestly, what I really recommend for Alvin Kamara is wait for him to go ahead and bust this next week against the Bucs, because he's going to bust against the Bucs as well. We know how nasty that defense is and how bad it is for opposing running backs. Alvin Kamara is going to be hands down the best buy low in fantasy football next week after he goes up against the Bucs and has 2 bust weeks in a row to start the season. Next buy low player on my list, and I like this one, is Mike Williams. Now, this is a guy who is going to be boom or bust his entire career. Now, this is never going to change. This is a boom or bust wide receiver. It's just the way he is. But we know that he has one of the highest weekly ceilings in all of fantasy football. This is a guy who could come out on any given week and give you 30-plus PPR points due to the fact that he's just an alpha X wide receiver. You know, he's got the 6'4" frame, the ability to make plays downfield. He's got a quarterback with a massive arm. Guys, this is still going to be quite possibly the highest scoring offense in the NFL this year. Do not let week 1 fool you. Obviously, they looked really bad, but we're talking about season-long standpoint, guys. This is going to be one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL. Justin Herbert has one of the strongest arms in the NFL of any quarterback, great for downfield threats like Mike Williams. And look, this is a team that's going to be putting points on the board and giving scoring upside and plenty of red zone targets to this alpha wide receiver, Mike Williams. He's going to have massive week-winning performances for you this year. Right now, after one of these huge bust weeks, it's one of the best times to buy low on Mike Williams because people are concerned that he's going to be a complete bust this year. Let's not forget how good he looked in the first half of last year. This guy has tremendous weekly upside, and due to the awesome weekly ceiling he presents, I love him as a buy low. Get this guy on your team while you can. The last buy low I have here on my list is going to be Derrick Henry. Now, Derrick Henry is a guy who, I mean, look, 21 carries this week, right? He's still going to be probably the biggest volume hog as far as overall carry count in the entire NFL this year. This is a guy who is going to receive 25-plus carries in a lot of games. We know that he has tremendous big play ability and the ability to bust out a 70-yard touchdown run on any given play. This is a dude who busted in week 1 mainly because of the fact that he didn't get in the end zone. I mean, he still had 84 yards rushing, and this is a bust week for him. We know that due to his tremendous big play ability and the insane amount of volume that he's going to get, he is a candidate every week to be the highest scoring running back in fantasy. So this quite possibly might be the worst game that Derrick Henry has all year. Overall, I think people were a little bit overhyped on him going into the season, but now, after a bust in week 1, it's a lot better of an opportunity to buy low on Derrick Henry and get this guy on your team who's still going to be a very good low-end running back 1, high-end running back 2 for your fantasy team. All right, guys, appreciate you tuning into the video. I will catch you later.